The Silver Screen City. Alright, and welcome back to part 2 of our Father's Day special. And in this episode, we're going to be telling some stories about our own fathers and little things that we've experienced while watching movies with them.
Okay.
Alright, let's go ahead and get started.
Alright, well, would you like to start us off?
Alright, my first story, it takes place, I was around 15 or 16. And my dad used to love watching movies with me and my brother. So he just loved his Laserdisc collection. So he's like, hey. So he's like, hey, I got a new Laserdisc of The Godfather, so let's all watch it. So I was like, all right, cool. So me and my brother are watching The Godfather with my dad, and we get a good ways in, and we noticed suddenly that the movie skipped. We're like, whoa, did the Laserdisc mess up? So we look at my dad, we're like, Dad, what happened? And then he's got this kind of like little smirk on his face. He's like nothing, let's just keep watching. And we're like, no, Dad, what happened? And he's like, nothing. He's like, come on, let's keep watching the movie. We're like, no. So me and my brother jump on my dad and we start wrestling him. We take the remote from him and we rewind it. Come to find out, he was forwarding nudity. And me and my brother, we rewound it, and sure enough, there was nudity, and he's like, "I told you, boys!" And he got so mad at us. We're like, "Sorry, Dad. We thought you were messing with us." It felt so bad, if he would have just told us, we would have been like, "Oh, okay." But he was trying to play it off.
It's nothing.
Nothing.
Because he was thinking like, oh, if I tell them they are, as soon as we're done, and I walk away, and they're gonna watch that.
Yeah.
Didn't work out that way.
No.
Should have trusted you guys.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my first story.
Yeah. Continuing with a couple of awkward movie experiences, I might have mentioned before when my dad took me to see Ace Ventura in the theater.
Yeah, I love that story.
Yeah, and just to kind of recap it again, like, I wanted to see the movie really bad. Jim Carrey was the new big thing. He was really funny. And I was going to see it with a friend, and he wasn't able to come. So my dad was like, I'll just see it with you. And it was just so awkward because, like, there was so much, like, potty humor and, like, sex humor. And I just remember my dad just, like, vocally in the theater being like, this is smut, And there was, like, an awkward, like, sex scene with the in the jungle, and it was just like all these animals are like nodding their head, and it was just so incredibly embarrassing. I did not enjoy that movie at all in the theater the first time because I was too embarrassed,
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, that's not my real story. My real story was also kind of embarrassing. I really wanted to see the movie The Crow, and it was playing at the drive-in, and at the time we loved going to see the drive-in. Going to the drive-in. It was always a double feature.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, my dad didn't want us to go see it. I don't know if he didn't want us to go see it or he just didn't want to see the movie because it was also kind of rainy out. So I was like, all my friends were seeing it, and I was just like really bummed out. And I remember just like laying in my room in the dark, just like sniffling. Because I was so like, I can't see The Crow. It's Brandon Lee's last movie. It's supposed to be great. And finally, like last minute, the movie was starting in like 5 minutes. He's like, hey, we're going to go see the movie. I'm going to take you and your sister, So we're like, yes, what's on? Let's go. And I remember just like really like drive faster, Dad. The movie started,
Mm-hmm.
And so we get there, and it's just really weird. Even at the time, like, I was like, this movie's dark and awkward. Like, I'm kind of like, I was embarrassed. It was The Crow, okay?
Yeah.
So it's gothic, comic, action movie. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then just to top it off, which was actually not as bad. There was a couple awkward scenes. There was this Western movie after it called Bad Girls.
Oh
It was
man,
like,
that
it
sounds
was like,
great.
yeah. You're like, oh gosh. It's even though it sounds like, like an adult film, it was just like this Western with an all female cast, like, you know, and in any way, like, I can't even remember who all was in it, but that was kind of awkward too, just because there was a couple of like no nudity or anything, but there was a couple of like suggestive scenes,
Hmm.
so that was kind of awkward, and I don't know. That movie's pretty awkward just to start. So yeah, that was probably one of the more awkward movie experiences with my dad.
Yeah, that's
But he
awesome.
he was a champ. He was a champ about it. He's like, fine, we'll see it.
Yeah,
You know.
that's great.
Yeah,
He pulled through, and unfortunately, you had to see those movies.
yeah. He just, I think he just like stood outside for a lot of it and smoked cigars. Whatever. Your turn.
Okay. My next story I've got was when I went to go see Dumb and Dumber with my mom and dad in the theater, and
Yes.
nothing
Oh
really
no.
bad. This was before the movie even started. I was sitting there with my mom and dad, and there's some teenagers behind us, and of course, they're talking really loud and being obnoxious, and they start commenting on girls around us or whatever. And one of the guys was talking, and then he starts being descriptive. No, he started insulting things about her, and so that was it for my dad. I just like he gets up and stands around, and he turns around and gets like in the kid's face. He's like, "You better watch your mouth, young man." He's like, "I don't want to hear anything like that again from you." And I'm like sinking in my seat. I was like, "Oh gosh, these kids are my age."
Oh man.
So
Oh man.
that was typical of my dad, though. My dad he hated when people just like and made fun of people, and he doesn't shy away from confrontation. So
Oh, good for him.
yeah,
We
so
need a lot more guys like your dad around now.
I
It's
know.
even worse.
Yep. So that was pretty great, but also I was at the time I was just so embarrassed. I was like, "Oh, Dad, just leave it alone."
Dude. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my story.
I go to school with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Another movie going experience for us was this is a little small story. It's just I remember this is more of a family thing, but on vacation in high school, we were on vacation in Florida and it was a rainy day, and we always go see a movie like on vacation. And there's been often times where we've seen like a really bad movie, and we're like, wow, we should have just stayed in the room. Uh, so I I convinced my entire family to go see Final Fantasy.
The spirits within, right?
Yeah, I doubled down on Final Fantasy and convinced my entire family to see it.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
and it was just like it was the boringest movie, and it was just really bad. And I feel like everybody was kind of mad at me. And I was like embarrassed. I was embarrassed on the choice. I should have been like, I want to apologize, everybody. This was a bad
Oh yeah, I
choice.
remember all of me and my friends were so pumped to see that because it's Final Fantasy. We were expecting something remotely like Final Fantasy. But it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, your turn.
All right, this is kind of a reoccurring story. My dad, he prides himself on his sound system at our house. So, I mean, he's got speakers that are like half my height. They're like huge, just massive speakers, massive subwoofer, and he loved to test it out. And what better way to test it out than with Apocalypse Now? So I'll never forget this. He's like, go ahead and get the mail. And we had a mailbox that was like halfway down the street. You know, they put all the mailboxes in one.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I go and run to get the mail, and I'm pretty far away, and out of nowhere I start hearing Ride of the Valkyries. Like super, like seriously, like it was so loud, like echoing throughout the neighborhood. And it's funny, yeah, that's our theme song now. So
yeah.
So I hear that thing, I start cracking up. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me, Dad!" I run back home, and it gets louder and louder, and I run in the house. It is so unbearably loud, and my dad's just in there with the biggest grin on his face, like, "Hey!" I was like, "Dad, this is horrible," but it was so cool, though. I mean, it's such a great scene because you've got so much awesome noise going on with the helicopters and the music and just explosions, everything about that scene. That's why he would do that often. He would forward to that scene and then just blast it, and he just thought that was the most fun thing ever.
Yeah.
That was great.
It was his go-to sound check.
Oh yeah, he's got to. I think he had to test out his system. And he would just like to show it off. He's like, "Hey, honey, come check this out."
Yeah, it was
funny.
That's funny. Mm-hmm. Did he say, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning"?
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my dad was a avid movie fan too, and before I was probably born, or when I was really little, when we got a VCR, we had a VCR, and a big thing in my house was recording. I mean, everybody did, but recording like any and every movie that's on TV, Mm-hmm. So we had so many movies that were just recorded, like off the TV with commercials, edited, whatever, off HBO. So we had a big library. So eventually, like, I don't know, it started out as like, we always got and built a really big movie collection. The last couple of years I lived in New Mexico in like middle school, we had a ton. Like we had a whole like little shelf case area dedicated to movies, and a lot of them were movies that we wanted to purchase, like the kids, and he would sometimes pick up one movie or two. When we moved to Virginia, and I was in high school, my dad still would buy. He would still come to stores, or he would come home with a couple movies, and then it turned into on my dad's way home from work, he would stop by a pawn shop or some sort of thrift store, and he had this one store he would go to, and he was always so proud of it. It's like, they have all these great movies for like $2, $3, and my dad would oftentimes come home sometimes with a grocery bag of used movies.
That's awesome.
It got to the point where they knew he was coming, and they would start to get a bag ready. So we had awesome. We had a wall of VHS movies, and sometimes there would be movies that were like never even watched, even in the store, and they still were kind of wrapped up. And then sometimes he would get a movie that we already owned. Duplicates. Yeah, because he would just like, I don't know, he couldn't keep track after a while of what we really had or not. And yeah, he got them to he would get like a bag, like a grocery bag of movies for like $10-$20.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was awesome. We're moving my mom out of her house into her apartment. We had to figure out what to do with all these movies. It was since then moved into my old room, and it was like deep shelf, just like layers of movies. So we
That's
had to get rid
funny.
of a lot of. I still kept a couple of them, but I would have to say since Netflix and all that, my personal library was growing big, but has like automatically just like come down to like maybe if I really love the movie, I'll get it
Yeah.
on Blu-ray, but I really don't buy a brand new Blu-ray, but like once every couple months.
Oh yeah, same here.
Yeah,
It has to be like a big release.
yeah.
That reminds me of you mentioned briefly about recording edited things off TV, and it just brought up a memory. we we watched me and my dad and my brother. We watched Die Hard, Die Hard 2, Die Harder
Die Harder.
on TV, and it comes to the point at the at the end when John McClane is shouting his tagline, and what does he say? He says, "Yippee ki yay, Mr. Falcon."
Falcon.
We laughed so hard at that. That was the just the silliest edit I've ever heard.
Yes.
It's almost as good as Scarface. Like, where'd you get that scar? Eating pineapple?
Big Lebowski. This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh.
So to this day, my dad still calls me that. He'll say, "What's up, Mr. Falcon?" So that stuck.
That's funny.
That's how good it was.
Yes.
So, anyways, all right. My last story. This is I believe I talked about this when we talked about the most awkward moments watching movies or something. Maybe. Okay. Now this is this has to do with a movie we talked about in our last episode, which is Cannibal the Musical. Now, if you haven't heard of Troma, they're kind of despicable. Like a lot of the stuff that they make is pretty awful.
Yes.
But Cannibal the Musical is just kind of like it's set apart. It's more unique than a lot of the trash they throw out there.
Yeah, it's definitely like cheap and sometimes bloody, but it's really not that like it's so much like less raunchy than the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the Cannibal the Musical DVD, they have a movie quiz. I was like, I was
I know
like,
exactly where you're going with this.
so I was like, oh sweet, I love movie quizzes. I'll test this out. So anyways, I'm going through this quiz, and it's a lot of like trauma questions. I don't know trauma very well. I know just basic ones like Toxic Avenger and stuff. So I was like, I kept failing, and then when you fail, they show like a famous gruesome death from one of their trauma movies, and so I was like, this is kind of crazy. Anyways, so in walks my dad. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm doing a movie quiz." And so, unbeknownst to me, I get the next question right, and the award for this is they show a topless girl. so this out of nowhere, my dad walks in. And he's like, "Oh, let me check this out." And the next thing he sees is a girl taking her shirt off, and I was like, he immediately like walks out, and he's all mad. He's like, "What are you doing?" So I was like, "Dad, no, you have it all wrong."
Yeah.
I felt horrible. I felt like I was like scum of the earth for like I was just doing like the worst possible thing, and I was mad that I upset my dad, but maybe he started it with his whole Godfather thing.
Yeah, it's his fault.
I never should have let them watch Godfather.
Yeah. Oh man. So I am convinced that parents have a super secret radar, unbeknownst to them, where they know the perfect moment and the perfect time to walk in on their kids watching like a movie or like a usually it doesn't even have to be rated R, just like any movie that like PG-13 movies, that's all it takes.
Uh-huh.
PG-13, rated R. They will always walk in the most inappropriate scene
That's right.
possible. Like it never fails. This happened to me multiple times when I've had friends over, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, my parents weren't like do whatever, but a lot of my friends knew my house is the house where they could watch rated R movies. But but yeah, it was like I remember watching South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut with
Oh
some
no.
friends, and my dad walked in right before the Saddam Hussein
In the
devil
bed.
scene, and we caught it. Like I'd seen the movie already, but none of my others, so I knew it was coming. So my dad came in and just kind of like shuffling around the kitchen doing things, and the movie was paused as we were making casual conversation for like 20 minutes. It was paused because we were waiting. We didn't want to play it when he was in. It was awful. Oh man. I mean, honestly, any scene from that movie would have been
Yeah.
worthy of pausing it while your parents are around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. My mom, she has like she doesn't have like amazing hearing or anything. She's just like, eh. But as soon as anyone starts breathing heavily, my mom is in the room.
Oh no.
What are you watching? Every single time. I've heard that line from my mom like a million times. What are you watching? I'm like, "Ugh, Mom, the guy's just running, okay? Ugh, that used to drive me nuts.
We're watching Boogie Nights, Mom. Gosh,
Yeah,
go away.
there's lots of running, like
It's,
guys and girls running together.
it's just a running scene from Showgirls. Trust us.
She's trying to get out of the business to become a runner, Mom. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's my story.
Yeah. So my last story, I might have I might have mentioned it before, but one I would probably like categorize it as like one of my most favorite movie going experiences. Um, as far as just like the perfect time to see it, and that was none other than going to see Jurassic Park for the first time.
Nice.
Yes, and Jared's like, yes, and some of our listeners are like, ah, they're going to talk about Jurassic Park again. No, no, but it was just really cool because it was first of all, I I my dad was an avid reader, and he would read most of the movie. We would always see movies in the theater because he would take us to movies because he had read the books, and he was like, "This is a great movie." Like, saw all the John Grisham movies and stuff. So anyway, so he was really pumped about it, and he was talking about it and stuff, and I was even bought some of the like some of the toys, a couple of the things before
Mm.
the movie came out, and I was like playing Jurassic Park before I even saw the movie. I was super pumped. And so the movie came out, and it was like school was letting out, or at least it was like a half day, or I didn't have to go to school, and I had a baseball game. I had like a little league baseball game, which I didn't love, but I loved it because it was the last night, and it was like nice weather out, and well, like my dad said, like right after we go to the game, we're gonna go see the movie. So like right after the game, he takes me and we go see like the late sneak peek showing of Jurassic Park.
Nice.
And I was like blown away. Like
Yeah.
it was just like so awesome. And I was like, man, thank you so much. I was
Hmm.
so thankful for having a father that was just so open and generous with movie experiences, and we really enjoyed seeing movies, with the son. It was probably one of our biggest bonding things. So,
It shaped you into what you are now.
yeah, exactly. Like we would not be doing this show had my dad not like taken me to so many movies and stuff like that. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I picked up some bad habits from my dad. Like he's a big collector. He just
Yeah.
collects movies like crazy. So I kind of got that from him. So I have so many DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yeah. Me too.
He has like an entire closet full that he hasn't even opened. He just
Oh man.
he gets like stuff from like his childhood, like these old box sets from TV shows like MASH and Man from U.N.C.L.E. and like all these old shows. He just keeps them in a wrapper in his closet.
Yeah, it's so funny that my grandparents did that, but
Yeah.
that's because they were old. And they would just see a movie that their grandkids might like, and they would just bring them home. And then we'd go to their place and be like, "Whoa, they have this movie and they haven't even unwrapped it. Let's watch it." Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Oh,
Good
movies.
stories. So that's our list of personal stories, a tribute to our dads, and a tribute to all dads out there. Happy Father's Day to everyone.
Yes, happy Father's Day, everybody. Happy Father's Day, Jared.
Hey, happy Father's Day, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we will see you all later. We're going to have a little bonus episode coming up soon after this one airs. So, woohoo. So thanks for listening. You all have a good one.
All right. See ya.